And as our leader of the Scottish Labour Party, and it was an immense honour to speak to the STUC Congress for the first in-person Congress for 3 years. My first Congress as leader of the Scottish Labour Party, and of course the first Congress for new General Secretary, relatively new General Secretary, Ros Foye. And it was important to come here first of all to give fraternal greetings from the Scottish Labour Party. I recognise that we were born out of the trade union movement, and I have the honour and privilege of leading the political wing of the Labour movement in Scotland, but only if we work collectively across the wider Labour movement can we deliver the change we need to see. I was also here to say a huge thank you to all our frontline workers who kept us going through that pandemic, all those individuals that we rightly went out for to applaud on the Thursday nights. But our applause isn't enough. We've got to make sure we're backing those workers up now with the recognition and the reward that they deserve. It's also a challenge, I think, for us to recognise, and I think Ros being our General Secretary is a good example of this, is having that leadership through those difficult years helped to emphasise the thing that we knew already going into the pandemic, that we have structural inbuilt inequalities in our society that works against women, but also works against working people. And you can see through that pandemic that disproportionately you're more likely to work in food production, more likely to work in our NHS, our care service, in our retail sector. If you're a woman, you're more likely to be in lower paid and secure work if you're a woman. And we've got to make sure we don't go back to that failed economic model, that fake society model pre-pandemic, but instead have that change across our country. And we've got a more recent example of the need for that change with the P&O scandal, with how those staff were treated. Those staff that showed loyal to that company through the pandemic, but treated so shamefully and criminally by management, by sacked over Zoom, by being forced off ships, and people with balaclavas and handcuffs. And we've got to make sure on day one of the next Labour government, we outlaw that practice so it can never happen again. Yes, I want those people to get their jobs back, but I also want to see the criminals that are in charge of P&O management face prosecution for that horrible act. And the final message to people across the country was, how do we build our trade union movement across the country to be on the side of working people, to address the cost of living crisis and to deliver the change we need right across our country. We have two failing governments that is letting Scotland down: a charlatan, a lie, a cheat, a criminal in Boris Johnson, but also criminal failures here in Scotland from the SNP. So a Labour Party firmly on the side of working people, working alongside our Labour movement, delivering change across the country. That was the message to members across Congress.